Pessoal, bom
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning. 1:30 in the afternoon. It's good morning if you haven't had lunch in Brazil, and good afternoon if you have. This is the last day of FEBRABAN. I actually wanted to be here on the third day. I like speaking to people who are the warriors of the event and who've shown great stick-with-itness and are here on the third day. It's wonderful to be with you. I've heard that there are more than 700 AI talks here, and I've separated some very important contents to speak to you about concerning AI. I want to tell you how Serasa sees the transformation of the market and in people's experiences and in products caused by AI. We carried out a study along with IDC, 5 trends that have to do with retail credit and fraud. If you don't know me, just to introduce myself, Gires, that's my name. I've been in Serasa 9 years, since 2016, and I spent a long time working with B2C, with consumers, and now I have been working as Director of Credit in B2B at Serasa, credit scores and reports. I'd like to share with you a study which has some very important facts in it. Retail fraud and credit is the topic, and it'll show you how important compliance can be when we're talking about AI. Perhaps the most complex issue is how agentic AI is assuming ever more complex tasks in the market, thinking and taking planning decisions. And this is an evolution from the earlier forms of AI to the more agentic forms, so generative to AI. So when we're buying an airline ticket or booking at a hotel, you can ask the credit companies to assess the options and take a decision on your behalf. When that starts to happen, these are situations that have to do with compliance and governance. The second thing I want to share with you
segundo item que eu quero compartilhar com vocês é no que
is
fusão.
about.
Eu tô me perdendo. Esse aqui é o primeiro, então.
Sorry. Yes, this is what I want to show you.
É a parte de
Is about blending credit risk management, fraud and compliance, being anchored on AI and digital identity. It's a context in which we have agentic AI taking complex decisions. Then there's a need to see that unless we fuse or merge these areas together, at least we need to make the areas be working in synergy, because sometimes we need to explain our decisions to other areas. So when you have regulations that have to be followed or any kind of legal questioning as to how and why a decision was taken, you need to be able to explain why. So compliance and governance start to make sense in terms of synergy between these fields. This is a field which is going to have a great deal of demand and lots of transformation. Then the next thing I want to talk about is how this is going to happen in compliance and governance. There's going to be ever more automatization with issues such as explainability, data governance, and audits. If you can imagine a situation where you have to explain why a decision was taken or a response was given, this is all part of the issue of how compliance and governance are going to explain decisions that go or come out of AI. How many companies are able to do that today? They could be companies that are going to create AI agents or hire third parties, because when you hire a third party, you have to understand how AI is going to affect governance and compliance. It's very important. It's likely to lead to a great explosion or a boom in the number of companies offering specialist reg tech services, and Serasa is completely attuned to that. Since all technologies have a good side, many companies are making good use, but there are also people and companies that make bad use. So in the AI universe, we're going to increasingly have fraudsters trying to access this type of information through technology. There's an interesting piece of data from IDC. In 2027, there are going to be twice as many frauds in loans using dark web data. How are we going to be able to catch all of these frauds and avoid our digital credentials? I don't mean just easy ones like email, phone, and address. I mean things like voice and image, how they can be adulterated using AI. So risk mitigation to avoid fraud is going to be increasingly important. And finally, one more indicator, which is it's predicted that by 2027, 70% of banks worldwide will have exclusive AI-linked compliance departments. This means that there's going to be an arms race, as it were, for the use of accountable AI. How can we duly explain decision-making processes? Having said that, then, the important points for you are more than just a trend that is coming. The important thing that we have is that I need to get to B, from A to B. B is going to have the products that I need. In terms of AI, we always issue this disclaimer. Where does AI come from? What's its starting point? Where does the issue begin? How can we enable it? How can we unblock it? How can we accelerate its use? A very important point is to understand that this comes from a sound and solid database. Everything that involves AI is based on a database. And what does this involve? 4 pillars, first of all. Complete mapping of financial, contractual, service, credit, fraud, consumption, transactional data, all of these, for example, onboarding data, all of this needs to be cataloged, mapped, and understood. And there needs to be a clear picture of what can and cannot be done with these data. Secondly, we get into quality and governance, where there are the following questions. Where is that piece of data? What's the use rule? How is it being used? Who by? What's the purpose of using that data? So much more than having the data in-house, it's more important to have tools that can quickly and transparently give us a catalog of information. And if you need to explain how AI is taking a decision, all the information has to be cataloged, and there needs to be a lineage of the track history of use. Then intelligent connectivity. The data might even be decentralized. That's not a problem in itself, but they need to be unique and integrated in order to make the most of the value of the information. So if you want to unleash the potential of AI, that's important. Last but not least, how can we scale up the data without scaling up costs? It's very important to understand the purpose of your business well. If I understand the purpose, then you will know that you need the data are correct and up to date, and if not, you will be storing and processing data, increasing costs without adding value to the company. So those are the 4 pillars that we see. Then from these 4 pillars, what do we find? In Serasa, we have this part. Based on this, I need the data to be good, accurate, connected, and scalable. I'm basing myself on the principle that with this data, how can I enable the data or enable the best extraction of value? Here's an example I like to use, which is how am I going to differentiate good data from bad data? Good, useful data, and also the right data, the wrong data. So my example from Rio Grande do Sul, Porto Alegre, there's been rain there recently. Good, accurate data is data where the information is full, it's reliable, and it's important and relevant. Suppose I'm City Hall of Porto Alegre. What is good and accurate? The official measurement of the water level of Lake Guaíba, for example. This will enable me to take contingency or emergency decisions. For City Hall, that's extremely important. Now, good data, but the wrong data. So information of the level of Guaíba Lake, but it's out of date, for example. It's good data, but it's wrong because it's only good in that case if I'm updating it, so it won't help me so much. Then bad data that is accurate. So continuing to talk about Lake Guaíba, I'm going to, for example, Serasa does nothing with this datum. It might be absolutely good and accurate, but it's meaningless to us. So it's a piece of data that is not being used, and it's just consuming cost for us. Opening a parenthesis, we have agricultural solutions, so agro solutions really find importance and relevance in the water level of Lake Guaíba, not so much in the past, maybe. And then also wrong, bad data. It may give the wrong figures, for example. Going back to Serasa, it could be fake news about the water level measurement. That's useless to Serasa as a business, and it's in fact not even accurate. So that's the worst case scenario. So, having discussed bad, good, accurate, and wrong data, let's go to this aspect. How to make access more democratic, more open to everyone without losing control. The challenge then is that, what's the challenge? Connecting the data and making sure that all departments in the company can access them securely, safely, and efficiently, and with respect for the use purpose and management of each piece of data and who's using it and for what purpose. That's the challenge. In order to overcome the challenge, I'm going to share with you some examples to make this clearer to you. It involves this: controlled access and audit trails with permissions, strong governance to make sure the right data gets to the right person, centralized view, even if some sources are decentralized, because a number of sources may provide the datum, but you nonetheless need to manage it in a centralized way, and management of consentment and use permission documents. It's very important and reinforces what I was saying. This is a world in which you're creating an AI agent and then hiring it from a third party. Are you not going to have any responsibility or accountability if it's third party? This is very important in AI. It's a relevant question because it will become increasingly important. And into the AI world, it will bring areas that in the past were not so close, not so neighboring or adjacent. Governance, for example. So what I wanted to get to tell you is that let's now dive straight in to how we can unleash the potential of AI. What do you all think when you think of AI? What's the first thing? Have you ever stopped to think about it? For me, it's always one of those autonomous Google cars in San Francisco. My point is that there are a number of different complexities of solutions. We're very used because of examples we see on the internet.
Sempre no exemplo mais complexo.
To think of the most complex example, but that might be very remote from our daily challenges and our companies. But there are a number of much less complex tasks than autonomous driving, self-driving cars, that are nonetheless extremely important for us to mention when talking about harnessing AI for the benefit of our companies. So I want to dive into the examples I brought. What has Serasa been doing over recent months and over the last few years?
Primeiro
So these are the pillars that Serasa is working on when we work with AI, and I'm going to go into them in more depth. So model monitoring. When I think of a credit model, I think of it within the context of today. The scenario today, the data of today, the economy of today. But after some time, the model loses efficiency because the world is changing and new options arise. So this work in models monitoring and monitoring the variables that are affecting the performance of credit models or fraud models, this work is very manual today. AI, what can it do for us? And in fact, already is. It monitors the performance of the model, and we can be more proactive and more surgical, as it were, if the performance is degrading over time. Or in the fourth example here about the score, recognizing new variables and updating the model, AI itself can scan and sweep at the variables and see that there are new ones which should be added, and also changing the weighting of these variables. So some are losing, some are gaining weight. AI can make this, can speed this up, not just for Serasa, but for everyone working with scores in fraud and credit, etc. The work which used to be very manual is now optimized.
The second example are the tools to improve codes. And yesterday I was talking to the CEO of Azure, and he said that Microsoft, 30% of the new code at Microsoft is done by AI using prompts. So this is something that is more agreed that it's already happening. And it's something we're doing a lot, and we are adopting that on our teams. It's no use having that in the teams, but we need to train them and to stimulate them so that they can use it the best way possible. Another example, ultra customization. The Serasa app is the top 5 of the most accessed, more than 25 million users per month. We are more and more integrating customization solutions and retro learning for those people to take better decisions. So we are doing the rollout of the ultra customization of the app, where all the experiences are customized and they learn when the person logs in the app. So that's what we're doing with the AI. The last example is financial management of PMS, identification of fraud, and here we have solutions from Liveness, AI to differentiate the live person from the picture of a picture or masks, not only the physical masks, but also the virtual masks that can be used with a picture we post on Instagram. So I'm going to show you that. Serasa Pass, it's a solution that is launched in FEBRABAN for the reuse of credentials from all the information of people that we have at Serasa, a solution that was built by purchasing ClearSale when we unified both portfolios. Enchanting the customer, we're talking about service. So there are two things that are more relevant. The first one is to do the first contact with the customer, where we can stop 50% of volume of access, and then to place an agent near the person who is doing the service, so that the service could be faster and more in-depth, so that the customer experience is better. And also assistants. There are several assistants, but the most different one that we have at the moment is the assistant that came from Global to help each employee to create better OKRs. So they identify the objectives of the business and they do make suggestions of what would be the best OKRs that we could use to reach that objective, and they do classification and suggestions for the employees. Something that is very simple and that generates efficiency, operating gains, and it's very different from an autonomous car. So, talking about the examples, trying to make that tangible, we have a business area which is called PME. PME has a portal, and through Open Finance, all PME companies, the small and medium companies, can connect their bank accounts. And based on that connection of bank accounts, we do the upload of all this data for the small and medium companies to have a single place for all bank accounts. That work that in the past was done by making categories of what is income, cost, direct costs, indirect costs, overheads that were done by humans, they can be done with AI. And based on that, we don't need to have more rules, and we don't need to have sentences that are ready and insights and suggestions of what the company can do. AI, when AI is receiving all these data, they can read, consolidate, suggest what is the next step for what the company needs to do. This is a solution that is being launched. It's in beta and since October last year, and it is being launched in the next month by our small and medium companies, PME. So it will be more efficient in terms of management, and there will be operations in the future of exchanging receivables of cheaper credit by the guarantees of receivables. That's another solution that is already being deployed at the moment.
Outro exemplo, tá? Aqui a gente chama que é produto chamado.
We have a product of dynamic models. The model, when it's launched, there is a performance. And as time goes by, this performance drops. Changes in context, economic scenario, old data, and all that. The work, whether in Serasa or in the customers who use Serasa models, whether they're customized or not, they manage the efficiency of the model. The dynamic models is a solution that allows the management monitoring of performance of credit model is automated to Gen AI. Everybody can take faster decisions. Here we take the scores that spend 2 or 3 years in an operation, and we have a faster view of laws of efficiency and why this efficiency is being lost. So we go from the blue loss line of laws of efficiency, and we keep that performance with the updating of models. So another solution that is available to all Serasa customers.
Aqui é trazendo o exemplo para
This is bringing the example of the super customization. I believe not everyone has that now because it's in the rollout today. From all the information that I have about people's lives on B2B and B2C, I can provide journeys and experience according to the profile of the person, understanding the consumption habits in the app. So I can bring that person who is getting credit, I can offer customized credit for them to get that credit according to the number of debts they have. So I add the debts and I bring a suggestion of credit pegged to the number of the debts and the amount of debt and the potential for payment, because if I know what's the potential for payment of a user, I don't need to wait for them to tell me I need X reals to pay in certain installments. I suggest that this person will exchange an expensive debt for a cheaper debt, and I know the installments because I know the capacity for payment and the income. That's how we have the experience that will shorten the journey, the number of steps that we have that the user would get in. They would be volume of credit, number of installments, and so on and so forth.
Outro exemplo, facilitador
Another example is a facilitator of credit policy. In the solution of platform or credit policy, we are making an AI solution where that process of editing credit policy cuts, changes of the cutoff that would take a long time, it would demand technology, it can be delivered with an AI tool where any analyst can do that without demanding technology. That's another example of AI saving time of a work that would take a long time of scheduling technology to do the credit adjustments.
Esse exemplo aqui é outro exemplo que eu gosto.
This example that I really like, it talks a lot about having a lot of data, but how much this data is accessible for everyone in the companies. This is an example. Can you imagine somebody's going to write about PR, indebtedness, volume of credit? These pieces of data, in the past, there were several people generating data so that we could do something together, putting together a PR. What can we do now using AI? That's another prototype that we have that we're doing the rollout of, and we see the debts that we have.
Pergunta, qual é o
The person has. We ask, what is the percentage of my user base?
9%?
69%. Then I want to receive that in a bar chart. Can you imagine that being delivered to any person, to a marketing team, so they don't need to, or an IT team to deliver that information? Anyone can have access to that. This is a type of solution that is available today in Serasa, so that there can be the best operation at home, efficiency, performance, to obstruct technology with tactics. Things that are simple that I can deliver with more efficiency, and nobody needs to know about SQL and anything else. People just need to do a good prompt.
Acho que está continuando aqui o vídeo.
Here we have a video.
Bom, agora eu quero saber
And now I want to know this data, but I want to cross it with the age distribution of those who have Serasa Premium. That's the tool for monitoring customers that we have in the Serasa app. My time is almost up. I'm in the finishing. Another example for fraud. These are some examples.
quem acha
Who thinks that, then I'm going to ask you, who thinks that fraud is A?
ninguém? Vocês não estão fazendo ou vocês não acham mesmo, hein?
You don't think? B. B.
Quem acha que é o C a fraude?
C.
Quem acha que a fraude é o D?
D.
A, B e C são fraudes.
A, B, and C. Only D is not.
Olha só
So,
que coisa interessante.
look how interesting that is.
Como é que a gente começa a descobrir?
How do we discover that? You take A and B. Look at the, it's the same tear,
Padrão de desgaste do documento.
the same tear of document.
O outro ponto é
The other point is the signature. You take the signature,
a gente está vendo o quê?
we can see that it's not manual. It's a font. It would be very hard for humans to catch that. You have to have Gen AI that is running through your database for it to understand what are the errors that we may be missing. It would be very difficult to do that without a scalable intelligence. Another example is the C, simulation of the signature. So the software are more perfect in terms of simulation of signatures. It's even hard to get that.
E por fim, pessoal, dado
And last, my time is up. These are the last two slides. This case.
Antigamente a gente falava de
In the past, we talked about masks to do fraud, and they were physical masks. Now, AI is helping those masks to be virtual with the information that we post in social media. The face of the fraud, the person who is the victim and the fraudster.
Vejam só que interessante.
Look how interesting that is.
Olha o fraudador, o rostinho dele.
The fraudster, his face.
O cara vai pegar.
The person will do what? Is going to take the picture of the frauded. Look how he changed the face. Look how the face changes. These are things that are very easy to do with AI. So if you don't have the best technology, the best platform, and a constant evolution for that kind of problem, you see that we have a scenario that is very difficult. So these are the AI agents taking the decision for us. So I'd like to thank you.
Pode ir. Boa. Então, pessoal, queria agradecer o tempo.
So I'd like to thank you for your time. Last day of the event, lunchtime. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.